I'm living life a little bolder, putting things in order. My tiny life takeover. And now we're thinking, what could be next?
Yeah.
So, clearly, there's always something to evolve, but my hope and wish is that everybody could at least see one, experience it. I'd love to build tiny homes to rent so people can go and experience that and maybe decide to put one on a piece of land that they can't put a house on, but they have such a nice view here in the Maritimes. We're full of them. And how do you build a cottage or put a camper? But if you can build something that you really love that's custom, you can make it that little small home, Airbnb, rent those out. So, maybe it's the government going to a farmer that nobody wants to farm but says, listen, let's lease this piece of land for 100 years and we'll service it and make it ready for tiny homes so you can have a small tiny home community. The fact that my parents are my neighbors teaches me what it is to have multi-generational neighbors and that community. Like, it's just such a richness we've lost. Everybody, alone in their big homes, to something that's just full of memory, because when you have a small home, you have to focus on the outside. The richness of your relationships mean more. You're not looking after your stuff. Adventures, so like stuff you can do around your tiny home. So that focus needs to be there. And you were talking about the classification earlier. This is insured as a travel trailer.
Okay.
So they're fine with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to put everything on video so people can see the fire, the stove and everything else. So it's not a problem for anybody to say, actually, this is legit. I can see how it's built, how it's made. You can't really go to code for a lot of things because everything is custom. You don't have the space. But then when you get to really think about it, it's insurable if you do things right, and you can put it where you want to. And to run it, people have asked me off-grid or not. Looking at off-grid, you'll see that any off-grid system, you need a secondary system. So my parents, actually I'm paying for the utilities, so I was gonna say that they are very generous, but it's just like, for now, as low as you can live so that you're not using a lot of power, that I could switch, or I could have a generator, but just like running on propane for the stove, wood stove, and the water just on 12 volts, so you can really live with low power consumption, that you could switch to solar if I wanted to. I just don't need to. And then we can get into the conversation of how to do all of that, but it's an option for the future.
So since we got into the technical side, now I'm wondering, like, in terms of, say, like property tax, how does that work? Like, if you had multiple...
It's on wheels.
Yeah,
It's on wheels.
not-
It's on
you
wheels,
don't
so it's
end
not a
up
building.
dealing
This
with
is
all
my
that,
property.
Yeah.
Exactly. So because it's on wheels, then you get to avoid all those things, which is great for the tiny housers. But because it's on wheels, you can't get electricity because you need a civic address.
Okay.
So I think just planning that out, and again, low energy consumption, so you could run it off a generator. There's ways.
The beauty with a tiny house like this, let's say you change jobs. Well, this is a long-term investment. You haul this thing wherever you're working.
Yeah.
So you can't lose.
It's very true.
Compared to buying a house wherever you work, and then you had to move, and then you're losing because you're under pressure. You haven't got time, and you lose some money. And
you end up in a house that you don't like.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to deal with whatever the market's doing at that time, where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I can't move the location. No. So I don't think I'll be taking that with me, but it does make me realize...
But theoretically, you could.
Theoretically, but...
You just don't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I can see why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well,
So we have this
through.
here, but you could build another tiny house somewhere really awesome, and maybe have a few kind of in different locations. So I'm just saying that you can take advantage of these beautiful spaces with something that's really great to live in for season. So we can't sell it. We're not going to sell it. But I could see how other people, if they're looking to downsize, looking at tiny homes, I'm trying to live by example, eating plant-based so that it's better sustainable for the planet, living in less, doing with less, but it's such a richer life. The memories that you make, you fill it with just stuff that you like, things that you enjoy. If you're looking to get into tiny homes, looking to build smaller, I would highly recommend to build it yourself or get involved in the planning process. If it's a builder, go there, feel things out. There was supposed to be a door here and it just wasn't working, and if I wouldn't have been there to feel it, it would have just been built, and then I would have lived in kind of, it's a shame that we didn't change that. But the fact that we took our time, we could talk about it, make it happen. There was a window that was just a bit off, and I said, let's live with that. And my dad was like, no, let's rip it out and put it exactly where it needs to go. So that's like, you're looking at thousands of these little decisions that you end up living in your art, in your craft. So it's it's craftsmanship that I learned, and so much more from my dad, and putting that all on video and YouTube and all of that. Hopefully other people can learn from it.
And even though that it seemed to be small, this is not a house, this is a home. So all these details that comes into play really construct a home that you can stay there for a long time.
So that's it for this episode of Tiny Life Takeover. Again, if you have any questions or you want to share your experience with me, with us, if you have questions for my dad, we'd love to help you get your project up off the ground and moving forward. So until the next time, my friends, take care of each other and God bless.